The two players are indeed ready. Gabriel against Roselle. It's going to be such a great game between two players that are used to such pressure. And I mean, it makes sense because they are both X2, and as you just said, one of them will not be able to qualify for the top 8. Gabriel won the die roll, and then he'll be able to start the game, and he starts in a very good way because we see that he's playing the Dracotail strategy. Starting with Mululu indeed is a very, very good way to try to play around some interruptions, especially because you can then use the fusion. We still see the Fuvalos, which is of course a very, very good card. I mean, against the Dracotail strategy though, you can still kind of play around because you will just make your opponent draw 2 cards. But what about the second one? 2 Fuvalos, the second one in a row. And now, I mean, it's a bit harder for Gabriel because you know that after each fusion summon, you will give many tools to your opponent.
Actually, I think Gabriel started his turn off here with a perfect way to play around Fuvalos because he normal summoned the Mululu and now was able to chain Mululu to the activation of the first Fuvalos, but when the second one hits, there is nothing to chain anymore, so we are drawing some cards. I feel like Roselle is still in a rush from that top 4 finish at the World Championship and ready to get another big finish in here this weekend with a quite unique deck, because White Forest, yes, we had it on feature match yesterday as well once, but that's not something you necessarily expected. We're using 3 cards from hand there to fusion summon. That's crazy. 1 Imperm could be absolutely detrimental to this Aphelion, and all cards in hand for Gabriel would be gone.
Yeah, we've talked about that yesterday, and the fact that if you try to interrupt the Arcelion, then you don't have any resources in hand, and we know that Dracotail strategy just wants to have many resources so that they are able then to fuse during the opponent turn. So now Gabriel, I mean, it's tough for him because he knows that he's going to have to face a lot of cards, a lot of tools, and we know that the strategy from Roselle likes to have a lot of cards in hand because you have to cost some spells. So yeah, pretty hard situation, but still we have the K2, so we are going to add a little bit more resources.
Yeah, I think this is very well navigated by Gabriel here, though, because as we did see, because he chose to utilize all 3 monsters in the hand, there was no longer a monster in the hand for the Rahu to resolve.
Exactly.
In turn, cutting off Roselle, getting maximum advantage from those Molchomi Fuvaloses, which is actually really, really important. So you kind of see the direction that Gabriel wants to go to, passing straight here.
Passes it over. Roselle, I've talked to her. She is confident in this White Forest deck, even being able to play into fields. Of course, we know it as a strong going first deck, putting up a huge field, but Roselle, and her record is kind of proving that, is confident enough that this deck can do a trick going second as well, and we are starting off with the normal summon of Sylvie here.
And this is a pretty good one. We are going to get access to more resources from the deck, and yeah, it will just go through. I mean, this is already very scary because you know that you are against a very, very strong strategy. The White Forest cards, they are very good going first. Going second, they are still pretty decent, to be honest. Of course, you have the problem that your bodies, your monsters, they have to stay on the field so that you can perform the synchro summons. And we know that the Dracotail strategy has access to cards like Arcelion to try to get them back in the hand. So it's gonna revolve around the ability of Roselle to try to still put more bodies on the field than Gabriel can just give back to the hand.
And I mean, the crazy thing is, Roselle knows every card in hand. Gabriel, it was a nice move by him to use all of those monsters from the hand to make sure that his own card wouldn't resolve anymore, playing around the Fuvalos, but it gave away so much information as well. We know there's an Ibiru, so Roselle will have to play around that one carefully, which the White Forest deck can do by, for example, setting up an early Azaminia Ilia Sylvia to negate it possibly, but we are just in the battle phase here, playing around Mululu's fusion effect in the main phase. So that is the first thing we want to make sure that it's not fusion summoning that way, but there's Femena still waiting in the hand.
Oh, and now we activate the field spell, which is of course a very good field spell, but it cuts you off from some cards of your deck, of course, because you only can then special summon some light monsters and no dark monsters.
Yeah, exactly that, and the Azamino, which will be the exact direct kind of combination or the counter to the Nibiru currently in Gabriel's hand, is of course going to be the Dark Monster. So it does make it a little bit more awkward.
Wow.
And coming back to that, obviously knowing that your opponent has a Nibiru, sometimes the fear of the unknown is a little bit more nerve-wracking than the actual guarantee, and I think that's going to be very, very important here to see how Rosalie navigates around that. And we've already seen that we've been able to discard the black goat that laughs into the graveyard, and that graveyard effect is also very, very useful.
It is so good, just making sure that a Thalion cannot be summoned when you call a Thalion in the graveyard with black goat laughs. That is just something that is completely shutting down that Dracotail deck. So right now, already, with so little cards being played from Rosalie's side, it feels like it's turning into her favor here.
Absolutely. The fact that you're able to resolve the LZ and on top of that be able to put the Black Goat Loft in the graveyard is so huge because, of course, Gabriel wanted to play the Arcelion. I mean, his whole strategy revolves around that because then you are able to force your opponent to play into the Nibiru. And yeah, I mean, for now, it's going very well. We are going to perform a Synchro Summon here. So we are going to have the Synchro 6. And it's probably, yeah, it's going to be the Roselle.
And I mean, it's also a classic duel between summoning mechanics here. We have the fusions on the one hand and the synchros are coming after them now. And we have the discard of Woes of the White Forest. And when we discard that, it will be able to reset itself, of course. So that's another great discard next to the Black Goat Lost that we already had. Getting LZ Azamina to our hand. Woes wants to come back.
Yeah, this is what I absolutely love about the White Forest strategy is even when you do lock yourself into not being able to access your dark monsters, it has so many good light monsters as well that you can utilize. And as you've already mentioned, being able to recycle your trap cards or spell cards, specifically the White Forest ones from the graveyard, then give you more resource to start to utilize. And as we mentioned yesterday, the White Forest strategy needs to be a very nice and very calculated balance between the amount of spells and traps you can play in comparison to the monsters you play as well. And it's just all around being able to maintain your resource in that way, which is quite interesting considering that Dracotail also want to maintain their resource in the hand. So it's actually going to be a very interesting back and forth.
Yeah. Absolutely, and the fact that Gabriel is thinking right now is very, very crucial, of course, because he doesn't have a whole lot to try to interrupt Rosalie, and if he doesn't interrupt her well, I mean, it's going to be absolutely awful for him. And now he decides to activate the 5 mana. But the problem is that, of course, we still have the Black Goat Loft in the graveyard. We have to activate it preemptively, otherwise the effect will resolve, of course. But it's going to be very interesting to see how Rosalie reacts. Because you can either say Arthalion or you can say Gulamel. But I think that it's going to be Arthalion 99% of the time.
I would agree. And that Black Goat Lost seems like it would need to be used here, but we saw it yesterday, for example, in the match from Joshua Schmidt. When we see competitive players, when we see good players, they think about every move so deeply. And the decision was made that we are not using that Black Goat Lofts here. I mean, it's tricky because whatever Rosalie is calling, Gabriel is just summoning the other monster, really.
Absolutely.
So it's a bit of a gamble that Rosalie did not want to take here.
But the question is, maybe if you can just say Arcelion and you can play around the Gulamel, then if you know that you're able to do so, it might be a good decision to say Arcelion. But Rosalie decided that she just wants to let Gabriel play his monster. So for now, he's going to use the Arcelion, and he thinks very carefully. I mean, the amount of pressure on those two players is absolutely insane, to be honest. This round 10, I mean, and there are 5 other after that, is something.
It is definitely crazy, and to give some background on Rosalie and the White Forest deck that she's bringing, it feels like she since Euro is just taking new challenges every tournament, and she wants to be with one really big result. At the European Championship, it was Vanquish Soul, where second place was enough to then switch over to a different deck at the World Championship. Turned out to be Sky Striker. I think quite satisfied with the top 4 finish there with Sky Strikers as well. So for YCS Lille then, it was White Forest all of a sudden. I think she also was influenced by Dino, who made 9th place at the World Championship with White Forest, and they were quite close there. And at Lille, it wasn't enough for a top 8 finish, so we stick to the same deck because we need that big result before we can move on to a next deck.
And we see something which is crucial here, the ability to just get some monsters back on the field by returning the synchro monsters from the field or graveyard to the extra deck. And I think that this is very, very important because you can literally dodge some kind of interactions from Gabriel's side. And yeah, I mean, this is pretty good here because you still have access to a level 4 and a level 2, which is great. We are, of course, going to destroy the level 2 by the pen. and get back the Mululu in hand.
Yeah, and I mean, we must have targeted the Synchro with the Aphelion, right?
Yeah.
That's why we chained the Sylvie, but Sylvie back to the field, as we said. And I mean, we, with the White Forest deck, usually have so much more to push, but do we have here in this particular case? We send something to keep on going. This, I was expecting, honestly, Diabellstar, but this is Diabells, the White Witch, which we activate here by sending the field spell to the graveyard. And that is extension that can provide some more pushing here from Rosalie's side. And we have to still respect that Nibiru in the hand of Gabriel. We know it's still there. Gabriel knows it. Rosalie knows it because it was discarded on the first turn, used for the fusion summon. And every viewer at home also knows, but when will it be best used? Ooh, sends Curse of Diabell to the graveyard.
It does make sense because it lets you get access to literally more engine.
So, Gabriel has to read. It's never a good sign. Gabriel is such an accomplished player, but even he has to read up on some of those new-ish White Forest cards, and that now is the Diabellstar Vengeance, another newer card. That White Forest deck got a lot better. I feel like the amount of time that has passed since White Forest originally was released, but still the amount of waves of support, it always be received in like, oh yeah, 2 cards here in this main set, another 2 cards here in that set, and Diabellstar Vengeance from that regard was somewhat recent. And will we summon that out? That allows us to basically summon a Synchro monster from the extra deck.
Absolutely.
Just by its effect.
Usually it is the Poplar that you want to special summon from the extra deck, and it is of course a very, very strong interaction with your opponent. And I mean, things are getting worse for Gabriel with the addition of this monster. Oh.
That is going to be a Synchro summon, and a rather big one that is, because we do not go for that Poplar of the White Forest, but instead we would go for a Snake Eye monster. Not Snake Eye Poplar, but instead the Vengeance Dragon. Or is he called Vengeance Dragon? Yes, Snake Eye's Vengeance Dragon. I was for a second I was questioning myself because it's Diabellstar Vengeance, but now the Snake Eye Vengeance. They're all with the same name. Kind of confusing, but we got it out, and it's a big one to summon here. Now we summon out the Diabellstar Vengeance. So Vengeance is next to Vengeance here. Gabriel, considering what he can do. Can Rosalie somehow really maybe even end it here this turn through all of this?
I mean, she's doing great, to be honest. Being able to special summon all those monsters through the interruptions, through the interaction. Of course, we had a little bit of help, especially with the Black God Love still in the graveyard. But I mean, it was very well done by her. We are still setting a card, and we know that there is another interaction during the opponent's turn because we still have access to the trap card, the Hose.
It seems like we are heading into the end phase, doesn't it?
And it means it's going to be very, very interesting because it's going to be very back and forth. You know, Gabriel now trying to interact with Rosalie's field, which is pretty good, considering the fact that she went second.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Nibiru will still be activated, though. We chain both of our Vengeances, though. Going after that Pan in the graveyard, going after the set card that we know to be Keto Dracotail. So we are clearing up the field in terms of monsters completely due to that Nibiru, the primal being, but also we take away that set Keto Dracotail, limiting the resources from Gabriel massively here.
Yeah, very good trade-off here on the Nibiru, remembering that the Vengeance Witch also has the ability to come back from the graveyard as well for the cost of half the life points, which we've already seen happen, but we might see again later on. And then we do have the Woes that could lead into a Synchro Summon, just making sure you get the right levels on the field, which shouldn't be too difficult for Rosalie to do. It is actually looking, even though Gabriel went first and actually set up a very impressive field, a lot of very well navigated interactions here has kind of swung the pendulum a little bit back to Rosalie.
This is only the first game of the day, but it's already proving to be so intense. And I mean, now that is only going to continue throughout the day. Every match is going to matter more as we're getting closer and closer to victory. And Rosalie wasting no time. Draw phase that Black Gold loves. And I think this is 100% going to be Dracotail Aphalion that we called there.
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely makes sense because we want Gabriel, who is actually low on resource, to stay low on resource and to be able to see another turn on the side of Roselle. So what do you do as Gabriel in this situation? Because this is not a very good situation. Of course, there is still the Aphalion in the graveyard that you can bring back. Oh, that's a pretty good one, to be honest. Like, the Mululu is, of course, in the hand.
Was known to be there,
Yeah.
but nothing else. We're just trying to go into the end phase, and there is the Woes of the White Forest from Rosalie. What can we do with this? We don't necessarily have to Synchro Summon, so maybe we just want to have the summon effect from that Sylvie, and that is exactly what we're going to do. And that is going to provide us with more engine here, grabbing back the Estella from the graveyard. Seems like Rosalie can really get back into her Synchro shenanigans here.
And we are getting some resources back here from Roselle. We don't have to interact with the opponent, of course. So we get the LZ. The problem is that when you are playing White Forest, of course, you want to cost a lot of cards. You have to use them. So it's pretty much not only one card, but multiple cards that will lead you to the victory. And when you are at the grind game, it's way harder to get access to those resources. So here we use the host to get access to the Sylvie, and the Sylvie will let us get some more fuel for the next turn. But it's going to be a very interesting game. Like, these grind games between Dracotail and White Forest are very, very, very interesting because every single interaction leads you to more advantage, and this advantage leads you to victory.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think the one thing that we didn't get to see in Rosalie's first turn is the access to the Dark Monsters, being the Azaminas and everything else in between. So when you're able to get access to Sinful Spores of the White Forest, this will unlock a whole lot of options for you. And again, as we've already seen, as it is a White Forest spell or trap, the majority of the time they will be able to reset themselves back to the spell and trap zones and be able to be utilized with the LZ as well. So you're getting a lot of advantage back here, and this really is going to be a resource management game between the two. And I feel that both of these duelists have been very, very well kind of explored on this one as well, being able to make sure that either player are maintaining their resources or limiting the amount of resources that your opponent can have. And we're starting to see Rosalie start to take a few more steps closer to that one.
Yep, LZ searches Astella now. Discarded the Sinful Spot of the White Forest, sets it back. Hollowed Azamina in the hand now too, and that card can prove trouble because when we can just establish the Azamina Ildia Sylvia, that could mean that Gabriel will be checked on his ability to fusion summon, so we have to chain them a little, but there's another Black Gold loss from Rosalie's side. Wow, you would consider that to be maybe a little bit bricky to draw multiple of those, but still she finds her way into this match here. Oh, with the Mulchami Fool, that was drawn from Gabriel's side, brings out Gulamel, so we must have called Aphalion here again with the Black Gold loss? Sure.
100%, yeah, 100%. And the fact that now you have access to the Azamina cards is very, very hard for Gabriel. Of course, last turn we didn't have access to those cards because we were locked into light monsters.
Yeah.
But now we have the Ilya Sylvia, and I don't really know what Gabriel can do in this situation, to be honest, because every single time he's gonna try to interact with the Gulamel, I mean, the Ilya Sylvia will be there to try to prevent that, and this is a very scary situation because we still have access to the Synchro Monsters thanks to the level 2 and level 4 on the field, and we know that the White Forest strategy, when it's not interrupted, I mean, it's literally over.
It is Gabriel now still resolving that other effect, but that's not going to prove any kind of interruption. So from here on out, it feels like Rosalie is just free to do whatever she wants. And we know there is the tools on hand to make this happen. Gulamel is only strong when you have other Dracotail cards to go alongside with it. But Gabriel will not be able to make any of those live here for this turn. Just one thing. Oh wait, we cannot even activate the Aphalion in the graveyard now due to that Black Code loss being used on it, and Gabriel is shaking his head. I think we're destroying.
I mean, we can still activate it because we can special summon from the graveyard still.
Oh, can we? Oh, is that possible?
Yeah. You can special summon from the graveyard, but from no other place.
That's true. So that is actually something we have to consider because that would be where the Gulamel could be chained to. But first of all, we bring out Murcielago.
But is it going to be enough? That is the question, because only one destruction, it might not stop the White Forest deck.
Grabs, wanted grabs, Diabell Star.
Wow.
This is just going really, really well. We saw a 60-card version of White Forest yesterday on the backup featured match from Dominic. This, and I was amazed by that, this deck from Rosalie is bringing it all down to clean 40 cards. Honestly, seeing White Forest decks like that, I've struggled to see that before, because usually they're like, yeah, we can do 48, 49, 50, 60, whatever, but Rosalie is really playing the most consistent version of the deck with a clean 40.
Yeah, what I love about the White Forest strategy is the exact ability to play power trap cards or power spell cards like the Black Goat that lasts as well can really give you a bit of an edge, because again, that balance between monsters and spells and traps really does limit your ability to play multiple hand interactions in forms like Ash Blossoms and the Mole Chummies and the Birus themselves, Effect Failures, the list goes on and on and on. So you kind of find the closest alternatives that will meet both of your requirements, and this is looking really, really good here for Rosalie, because we're able to kind of, I feel the biggest thing we need to worry about now, as you've already mentioned, is the Arfulion in the graveyard, but if you don't let two monsters enter the graveyard at the same time, it's not going to happen.
Oh, Snake Eyes Doom Dragon makes there another monster in the spell and trap zone, and Rosalie going second, takes game number 1 off of Gabriel. Susie, such a strong opponent to defeat here with not even winning the die roll, so that must be a good feeling here for Rosalie right away.
I mean, yeah, we saw exactly what we expected. I mean, Dracotail, very strong strategy going first, of course, but when you are hit by 2 Fuvalos, not only 1, but 2 Fuvalos, Gabriel tried to play around that with the ability of literally not having any card in hand to try to resolve the fusion spell, but still, you give a lot of tools to your opponent, because the White Forest strategy, when it's the best, it's when you have a lot of cards, so that you can literally discard your cards and have a lot of bridges between all the cards of your deck.
There's so many cards at this point.
Yeah, and the ability as well to play around the Arsalian, helped by the Black Goat Loaf. I mean, the Black Goat Loaf was literally the decider in this game, in my opinion.
Definitely, and I mean, that maybe is the secret to White Forest. Maybe just trimming it down to 40 cards makes you see those Mochami Fuvaloses more often, makes you see that Black Goat Loves more often, so maybe it really is the new recipe to the deck that Rosalie has found and can maybe bring all the way to a top 8 finish here. But first of all, 2 more games possibly to be played here in this first match. So step by step, Rosalie, don't get ahead of yourself. But that is going to be another tough one here to face. But of course now, we can also use our side decks, and from that side deck there is coming possibly even more help for Rosalie, more ways to be siding in against that Dracotail matchup, because for sure she is prepared for that matchup in particular as Dracotail currently, and we also proved that yesterday with the stats, with the deck breakdown for the overall event, is the most popular deck in the room and in the format.
Yeah, I think it's also very, very interesting when you're building decks like this as well, because you take Dracotail, for example. Dracotail kind of want more monsters in their side deck because, again, trying to regain that resource of adding them back from the graveyard back to the hand. So it starts to limit your access to certain power spells in the forms of Dark Rulers or Lightning Storms or everything else like that. So then when you flip that to the White Forest strategy, they want to be a little bit more different. They don't want to be relying as on many monsters as possible. So then you start looking at the list of the spells and traps that you can use. And as we saw with the Black Goat the last, because it serves double purpose, you're trying to narrow down those particular cards like that, and there is a specific card that I'm a massive fan of, specifically going second strategy. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they come into Rosalie's strategy here, because I think that could be a big difference. And the one thing you need to remember, the Dracotails, is that their strategy want to utilize a lot of hand interaction, but they also have their incredibly powerful trap cards in the form of Sting, Horn and Flame, which could make it a little bit more difficult for Rosalie to fully navigate, but we are going to be able to well and truly see how both these duelists kind of go into.
Don't spoil us like that though. What is that card that you're talking about? What is that card that you want to maybe see go in?
Well, let's put it this way. Both of these duelists are currently evenly matched with a 7-2 record. So I guess we're about to see how we're going to be moving on into the next game.
Are we really evenly matched? Players are ready, so let's find out. Game 2 coming your way now.
So it's going to be up to Gabriel to try to even it during this game. He's going to go first once again, and of course we hope for him that he's not going to be hit by 2 Fuvalos once again, because it's going to be hard if it is the case. But yeah, I mean, I think that the White Forest strategy, the fact that you had access to those Fuvalos helped a lot, to be honest, but I'm very curious to see if you have the same ability to be able to break the field if you don't have this, this huge help from the Charmies.
I have a mind game question here. What are you thinking when your opponent looks at their hand and then afterwards just starts sorting their extra deck? Is that a sign of, hey, I don't have anything here to do on your turn anyways? Or is that just a bluff maybe from Rosalie's side there? Okay, but focusing on Gabriel, we are going with the Lucius, which is, of course, a start, which sometimes is the most important part of the Dracotail deck, that you just find a start and not a brick, and
True.
that surely is not a brick here right now from Gabriel. But do you think that's something that Rosalie is giving away? Was that maybe showing we do not have full wheels this time?
To be honest, I think that's just kind of like it's something that I quite like to do. If I'm playing a multi-type extra deck, I like them to be organised.
Okay,
I don't know why.
I see.
I like them to be. I know where my synchros are. I know where my fusions are.
Fair.
So I think it's probably more that, but it does make it very, very interesting. Of maybe, and this could be extra spicy if you wanted to play a Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. Just what do I have that I could use here?
Maybe I'm just an unorganized and messy person, man, because I wouldn't care about that. I'm like, I focus on this game right here, right now. But Rosalie, surely, with her type of success, has found a way for herself. Okay, now comes the Rahu Dracotail from Gabriel.
And this time, no response, so we don't have any merch armies in Rosalie's hand, which is, of course, pretty good for Gabriel. But this is also scary because we are now in game 2, so we know that there might be some answers in Rosalie's hand. And we know that White Forest, as Dale said right before, might have some very, very, very scary going second cards.
Oh, that's a good combination there. Urgula and Pan being used for the fusion summon of Aphelion. And I wouldn't be surprised if we just recycle both of them back to our hand here. Oh, only the Pan for the moment, that's fair.
The fact that we get Urgula is of course very, very good, because if we get access to it in the hand, we will be able to destroy a spell and traps on Rosalie's side on her turn. And this is of course insane, because you know the White Forest strategy, they like to use those spell and trap and to utilize them to just declare the effects. So if we remove those resources, then it becomes harder.
Ooh, 5 mana too now. We keep on fusion summoning, using the Lucius from the field as well.
I think it's going to be a very, very standard field on the side of Gabriel. We are going to bring the Gulamel probably. Oh! Or is it? No, it is a Secretarian here. Very interesting indeed.
Hold on, I mean, with the White Forest deck, there is a lot of spellcasters in there, right?
True.
So the Secretarian Dragon actually could be a really, really, really good tool here from Gabriel's side, because it is also shutting down the spellcasters, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, I think so. And the fact is, this is very interesting to bring it now. The only concern I have is that if you play some going second cards, then your Secretarian is vulnerable, to be honest. And it might also have been interesting to play it during the opponent's turn and to use it as a kind of a surprise. I mean, not very surprising, but you know.
But this is already looking so much better on Gabriel's end. He is able to set up those important trap cards. We talked about that being the recipe to success for every Dracotail player. Usually you're not winning because of the monsters on the field, but because of those trap cards. There is 3 of them that you're running: Sting, Flame, and Horn. And Gabriel will be able to find a combination of those here this time around.
But this is a very good setup, to be honest. Like, you've got access to Mululu, you've got some very good cards in hand, and you've got access to all your trap cards. On top of that, you have the Secretarian. I mean, this is no joke to play around those cards. And Rosalie will have a lot of work to do.
Ooh, okay. We start off by discarding the Sinful Spoils Silvera to activate the effect of our LZ here.
Yeah, I think Sting is actually going to play a massive part in this particular. We already know that Gabriel has this, but the benefit of Sting that you're going to get over anything like Flame or anything like Horn is that you can't really fully play around them, and the added benefit of that one is you're not only going to get rid of a spell or trap as a resource that the White Forest want, but you can also get rid of one of the monsters that want to act as a recurable resource as well. So 2 for 1 is always going to be a very, very powerful trade-off here, and seeing that trap card hit the graveyard is something you probably don't mind fully seeing, because it does mean that it's one less card in the hand for Rosalie that gives you some form of advantage. Definitely when you see that trap card hit the graveyard and start to have monsters entering the field of play, you start to have a bit more of a sigh of relief that there is no longer going to be a draw phase, standby phase, main phase, straight to battle phase. So that is always a heart skipper for any duelist.
Yeah, so for the people wondering why the Secretarian Dragon is not stopping any of this, it only interacts with special summoned monsters on the field. So the LZ activated in the hand, so unaffected by it, and that Sylvie, of course, is a normal summon. So they're both spellcasters, but they were able to resolve the effect here. But now Gabriel wants to have a say in this second turn as well, starting off with the Dracotail Flame here.
Yeah, so this is what I think is always important when you are facing synchro-style decks, is sometimes you want to always get rid of their tuner access, because without a tuner, there is no synchro. So that's where it becomes very, very difficult, and I feel that we're going to be starting to see very well-controlled trade-offs here from Gabriel.
And this is very interesting because, of course, we play very carefully. Here we removed the access to a tuner, of course, as you just said, and we are going to have to extend on the side of Roselle. We are activating Tails here, which is an access to some more engine, but I mean, still, there is the Secretarian, and the Secretarian is putting on a lot of work, in my opinion, because, yeah, we've used the LZ already, we've used the normal summon, so now we will have to just deal with the Secretarian to be able to activate the other effects.
Yeah, we still have Mululu as well, which can be a massive component here, because we have Pan back in the hand. So again, that's another way to limit resource or limit access to tuners again. And just trying to pick them off piece by piece can really start to limit everything. And I think this is a really, really interesting duel. And going off with the Deception can change some plans right here.
It actually changes a little bit some things, because of course we know that Deception is a very crucial part of the White Forest strategy. You get access not only to some more engine, but also to a negate in the form of Ilya Sylvia, and this negate might force Gabriel to react.
We shall see. We know there's a way to react to spell cards, of course, also in the Dracotail deck, so maybe that's the moment we want to go after. Is that where we activate the next card? We've used the Horn, but is this the moment for Flame? Seems like it is. Dracotail Flame being chained to the activation of the Deception here.
And
that
we
will
get
negate its effect. But interestingly enough, we did not wait for the activation of the effect, because there was nothing tributed for the Deception just yet. So I'm wondering why that was the case here on Gabriel's end.
Maybe we wanted to access to more resources faster, I don't know, but indeed we are going to activate. Oh, we are going to chain the Mululu to the effect of Roselle. But I kind of wonder where this is going on Roselle's side. I mean, I don't see the line yet.
I'm sure Roselle does. She has some experience with this White Forest deck, and also she must truly believe that there is a way to win this game. Otherwise, we probably would have seen her scoop fast, but she believes there is a way into this. But time management, of course, is a crucial part about Yu-Gi-Oh!, especially high-level Yu-Gi-Oh! At big tournaments, and falling below 20 minutes here on the overall timer could be something they would have to pay attention to here if they want to finish the match in the given 50 minutes overall.
So we are going to get access to the Gulam, and of course we are going to get rid of another monster, and this is all what it is about. Of course, we want to get rid of all the monsters on the field so that Roselle is not able to access those powerful synchro summons and those powerful synchro monsters. And if you pay attention, every single time there was two monsters on the field, Gabriel reacted and decided to remove one monster on the field so that Roselle is not able to just continue and keep going on his combos. On her combos.
Yeah, I think one very core and important piece that we've just seen with Gabriel as well. If you are if you're familiar with the Dracotail strategy, you should know this already, but what you really need to be very important with is recycling your trap cards off of one another. Once you get the first one into the graveyard, you want to make sure that when you're activating the second trap card, you're able to put back the first one. It can actually be very, very important. Triple tactic thrust.
Now all of a sudden, all of those powerful spell and trap cards in the deck become available immediately through triple tactic thrust. What are we going to take? It's not going to be evenly matched, as we are stuck with that Deception there on the field, but it could be something possibly evenly strong. Maybe a Happy's Feather. Oh, we just we were denied access to the Hollow Dazamina by negating the Deception of the Sinful Spells, but we can just surge it with thrust instead.
Yeah, I think coming back to, as you mentioned with the Dracotail Flame, this could be very, very important, because we've already used the Flame on the Deception and we didn't allow that to kind of take away resource for Roselle. This is going to be a very, very interesting kind of play. Sting!
Ooh, okay. Want to preemptively get rid of that.
Absolutely, we get rid of that, and of course we are going to get another card in hand, which is great because we want to prevent, I think, the Laura Azamina to just resolve. we've got a lot of cards, to be honest, in the hand to try to deal with it. We've got 5 cards.
Oh, Filia Diabel also just being activated here, step by step. Rosalie revealing every single card she has in her hand, and that just adds a level 8 or higher Diabel monster from the deck, and that is going to be Diabel's Vengeance again. But actually, if your opponent controls monsters, you can even special summon it straight to the field, and that's where the Diabel's Vengeance now is.
Yeah, and the most important thing about the Diabellstar Vengeance is he's a fiend and not a spellcaster, so that Secturion is not going to be as effective here, and especially with the Hollowed Azamina, we're probably going to be working our way into an illusion monster as well. So starting to play around the Secturion Dragon, not as effective as once feared. It really is going to come down to what final hand interactions that Gabriel has here to kind of stifle the field of Rosalie.
And we wanted to prevent Rosalie from getting access to these allowed Azamina, but it is still on the field and it will resolve very, very good here for Rosalie, of course, because we are going to get access to the extra deck, and we have 2 choices. We can still get access to some more engine, or we can just protect ourselves with the Ilia Sylvia.
Yeah, this shows the versatility of White Forest as well, as we've previously seen that Gabriel spent so many resources to stop access to the Synchro Summoning, and then all of a sudden we're now going to be starting to Fusion Summon, and one very, very big point we can go for, depending on where Rosalie wants to go for, is we can go down the wanted route with the Mu Rusiliago, or we can go straight for a bit of a protection route with the Sylvie Azamina.
So what is it going to be? We are going for Murcielago, and I think that is the route we have to take here, because just going Ilia Sylvia probably is not going to win you the game, as there is just not much more in the hand. We know there is the Sylvie in the hand, which was previously put back into that hand by Gabriel, so we need more gas. And there also now is the last card in hand being revealed. That is the Diabellstar, the Black Witch.
And the really good thing is that we are going to get access to the allowed Azamina as well, once again, by returning the Fusion Monster to the extra deck. And we are going to get access to Ilia Sylvia anyway, during probably the next step of the combo.
Yeah, I think this could possibly be the final check from Rosalie for any more interactions that Gabriel has, because as soon as that Sylvie enters the field of play, that then starts to check with the Fire Main Art and then any other hand interactions that Gabriel may have. So we're starting to kind of not wall up ourselves, but covering ourselves from all of these different options. And we still have the effect of the Diabellstar Vengeance to either come back from the graveyard should it leave the field of play, but also has a very nice effect to target a card your opponent controls and destroy it. So it does have that ability to trade off with one of the cards on the field should we want to start activating any other spellcaster effects.
And seems like that is now going out of a known last trap card that there is. Or we did activate all the trap cards, right?
All trap cards have been activated, so that I believe was a reset. Dracotail Flame.
Okay, so it is a trap card, but it's not one that we can activate anymore.
Correct.
But I mean, this is the situation you also want to have the Hollowed Azamina in, because we have Hollowed Azamina in hand with the Wanted to it, and usually the best interaction you have is just activate the Hollowed Azamina, chain the Wanted to just immediately send it to the graveyard, but resolve both cards. So Rosalie absolutely not done with it here just yet, but once more I have to mention the amount of time left in this match. It is getting a little
True.
low there. Okay, we are able to clear off that trap card. That's good. Are we special summoning from the extra deck as well?
That's actually good, but I wonder if Rosalie can do a whole lot more, to be honest, because Gabriel still has a lot of resources, a lot of cards in hand, and also some follow-up during the next turn. So it's not going to be that easy and as easy as the previous game for Rosalie to just end the game and get the victory.
Yeah, completely agree here. Obviously, looking at different synchro options from the extra deck, we decided to go for the Rusilia. This one is going to try and push a little bit more advantage, but it does give that benefit of also being a tuner itself. So it opens up the door to the synchro plays again, and we're going to be going for that Hallowed Azamina, working our way possibly into the Sylvie right now.
And are we chaining the Wanted? Surely we are, right? That is how you usually do it.
I mean, yeah, it would make a lot of sense.
Here comes Nibiru!
Oh, that is interesting. We have to use it here because we are too afraid of Ilia Sylvia coming next. And ironically enough, Gabriel, for that moment, tributing more monsters on his own side than on Rosalie's side. But we have to use it here. And still, after that resolves, Ilia Sylvia.
And
yes, Ilia Sylvia hits the field.
Usilia, Sylvia, but to be honest, Gabriel is still in a pretty good situation because, of course, if you want to synchro summon on the side of Roselle, you will have to just send 2 monsters to the graveyard and you'll then be able to activate the effect of Gabriel's monster, the Gulamel and the Arsalian, to get them back on the field. So this is still a pretty good situation, even if we just get rid of our own field. And remember, we still have some follow-up on the next turn.
And one thing that's interesting here, we did not chain the Wanted. I think we just discarded the Wanted from the hand, so maybe Rosalie was caught off guard by the Nibiru being activated from Gabriel and then just forgot about her own Wanted to be chained, or there was no intention of activating that in the first place. But we are activating the graveyard effect of Wanted now, trying to draw for another card.
Yeah, exactly that. And as previously mentioned, you start to look at the clock at 11 minutes on time. At what point in this type of duel do you start to consider maybe conceding and going to game 3, or do you stick with it feeling that you can take the win in this game 2 right here?
Here it comes, Wanted. You will at least try to get that Destiny draw here. 1 card off the top. What could it be? Maybe the field spell or something like that. That could help. But no, it does not. Rosalie wisely takes her cards and says we are heading into a third game. 10 minutes only remain.